Hello and welcome to Gardening 58 North. In this video I'd like to give you guys an update on my Clivia plant. It's just going to be a quick update video, and I'll also show you a time lapse at the end of this one at the back, which was just coming into flower in the last week or so. So the last update video was I think in November time, late autumn, and what I had done is I potted these up. Basically these Clivias have been growing in my parents' garden in a polytunnel or outside on and off depending on the weather, and basically it was too cold for them. It was getting too cold at night. They didn't like that too much, but the main issue was it was too sunny, so they were either outside in dappled shade or relatively strong sun, but when it was in the polytunnel these were getting full sun and that was bleaching the leaves yellow, so they really didn't like it. It was too damp, too sunny, and a little bit cold, but also if it was a hot sunny day and they were in the polytunnel they'd also get too hot as well, so massive fluctuations in temperature and far too much light, and that's why the leaves were yellow and they weren't looking too good. Also, they were planted up in quite poor soil that hadn't been changed for a few years, so they really needed repotting. So I've repotted them in the last update, and I'll leave you a link now in the iCard or down below in the description. And in that one, they weren't looking too different. They were in the same pots, but with old compost. And since I've repotted them, they've just been in a shady location in my conservatory. It's the middle of winter at the moment, so they haven't put on a lot of growth. But I was delighted to see that one has actually flowered. So this is the one that's done the best. As you can see, there's quite large flowers on it. I knew that some of them might come into flower, but I thought they were too stressed, that might not get any. Clivia plants, even if they're quite young, as long as they get that cold period over winter, they will flower normally in spring. And with taking this into the conservatory, it's just that little bit of extra warmth. It's actually triggered it into flowering, and it has actually got a decent display. Despite this being a rather sickly plant and not too happy, it did have a few more flowers than I was expecting. What I've seen Clivias do before is if they're quite stressed or they're quite young, small plants, they'll still flower. It's not so much to do with the size of the plant, it's more to do with the correct temperatures over winter. They'll still flower, they'll just have a lot less flowers. So I was quite surprised that this one has quite so many. I thought this should maybe only have 2 or 3 flowers, but it's already opened up several. And there's at least 2 more little buds still to develop. So it's going to have a nice head of flowers, quite a nice little surprise. I don't see any flower buds forming on the other ones, but these other plants are a lot smaller, and also it's a little bit early in the year. I was surprised that this flowered in the middle of winter. Normally it would be spring. So we'll see if these other ones flower. If they do, it'll probably be in a few months' time, March, April, when it starts to warm up again in the conservatory. So the only other real difference that has happened since we repotted them, some of the new growth has started on these younger plants here. The growth has been quite slow because it's the middle of winter, it's dark. Temperatures in the conservatory here, especially in the spot that I've had them, about 8 degrees at night and probably about 15, 16 during the day. So quite cool temperatures, which is good if you want to induce them into flowering, but it doesn't really induce them into putting on too much growth. So they've varied quite a lot in their growth. This one seems to have responded the best. You can see the new growth is really nice and dark. Also, a good sign that this is much happier now in this new soil mix is that the leaves here are much wider than the old leaves. So you can see that's one of the old leaves there. And this new leaf has got a lot more width to it. So the leaves are going to be much bigger, and they'll just continue to get longer and longer, and they should grow longer than the original leaves on this one, probably more like the length of the leaves of the one at the back, maybe even longer if this is getting well established. So much healthier growth. You really see the nice dark green colour. So this one's done the same, nice dark leaf, much wider than the original one as well, so good leaves coming through. The other ones haven't responded quite as well. So these ones, they have grown some nice darker leaves, but they're not that thick. These are very small plants, they're probably still a bit sickly, a bit small and young. And this one as well, this one's responded the least well. It has put a couple of new leaves up, but generally it's just kind of sat there and it's gone a bit more yellow, if anything, on the old leaves. So I'll probably give you guys an update in a few months' time, either when these younger ones start to flower, which they might do when it starts to warm up, or when they put on lots of growth and we can see the nice new healthy foliage coming through. I'm going to be having them in a shady location in my conservatory, away from any direct light, but they still get plenty of bright light, and that's what you need with Clivia. You need to keep away the bright sunshine. They naturally grow in the shady floor of forest in South Africa, so they want that dappled shade, indirect light, and they'll do that their best. If it's too sunny for them, they'll just get those horrible yellow leaves. So I'll leave you now with a time lapse of this one at the back, just as it was coming into flower. It's quite interesting to see how the stem kind of wiggles around as it grows up and as the flowers develop.